Okay, we have a number of slides that are left. We're going to finish as much as we can. We will finish what we had promised to finish today, but perhaps some of the slides that I had mentioned that were extra, you'll just be able to read, meaning the ones about Taraweeh and I'tikaf and things like that. Although those are important acts of worship for the month of Ramadan, we will hopefully fly through them at the end. You'll be able to benefit from that. Okay. So again, this is the QR code for those of you who came late that want to download the slides. You'll get the full deck of everything that we're presenting today. It should be downloadable in a Google Drive. You'll find the PDF there. Okay, so let's talk about zakat on investments and retirement. Now, I want to make one clarification, and that is, let's say I pay my Ramadan every year on the 5th. I pay my zakat every year on the 15th of Ramadan. What I'm going to do is on the 15th of Ramadan, I'm going to add all of my assets together. Then I'm going to deduct only those immediate expenses, and then I'm going to pay 2.5% on the rest. What does that mean that I'm doing? Let's say someone came and asked me a question and said, well, I was given some gold, but it hasn't been a year yet. Or I made some money off of trading and it hasn't been a year yet. But because all of that is liquid wealth, I put it all in the same bucket. And so essentially, if we're looking at individual income streams, I'm paying early on some, I'm paying on time for the rest. So it all equals out. All right. So this is the easiest way to be able to deal with a number of different income streams that are coming in. Now, it's very common for people in our community to be trading stocks or investing in stocks and funds. What is the difference? The trader is essentially treating the stock or the fund as his inventory for business. He is buying and selling and buying and selling. He's not trying to own the company to stay with it long term. He's just trying to arbitrage and make money off of the difference in price. And because of that, all you will do is, if you are an options trader, you are a stock trader, you're doing you're doing swing trades, you're doing day trades, you're just going to look at the cash value, the market value of your account in your brokerage account. Okay? So if you have a Fidelity account, you have a TD Ameritrade account, you have a Robinhood account, whatever it may be, and you're just trading in and out without regards to whether you want to hold it for a long time or not, whether you want it to grow over time or not, you're just trying to make money off of the individual trades, you treat that same as cash. If you are a long-term passive investor, which many of us are, that can happen in your brokerage account, that can happen in your 401k, that can happen in your IRA, that can be in your 457B, that can be in your 457, you can be 403B, it can be in your HSA, it can be in a number of different accounts. But the idea here is that you're a long-term passive investor. Let me ask you this. If you owned an apartment building and you rented the apartment building out, and let's say you lived in one of the apartments, and you kept the money that you made from the apartments, you kept it in cash in a safe. Do you pay zakat on the value of the building? Do you pay zakat on the cash that's in the safe? Yes, you do. Do you pay zakat on the rents that that are being paid at the time? No. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Why? Because they're receivables for that month. So you pay zakat on what's liquid: cash, receivables, inventory. Things that are what's called capital assets or hard assets, you don't pay zakat on them. Why? Because a hard asset to your business is like a personal asset to your home. Do I pay zakat on my couch? No. Do I pay zakat if I own a warehouse? Do I pay zakat on my forklift? No. Do I pay zakat on the cash that's in my sock drawer? Do I pay zakat on the inventory that I lift with my forklift? Yes. Why? Liquid, liquid. Hard asset, hard asset. Okay? So the idea here is that when I'm trading stocks and funds, I should only be paying on the liquid available cash value of that share. Why? Because a share is just a piece of a company. And that company is represented of capital, hard assets, buildings, forklifts, whatever, and then cash, receivables, and inventory. So if I were the business owner 100%, I would only pay on the cash, receivables, and inventory. Here's the hard part. If I have a 401k or an IRA or something like that, and I want to pay on that, it can be a very daunting task for us as individuals to go and research every company and their current assets and then calculate that. It gets even harder if you use mutual funds or ETFs to invest and not individual companies. So what do? In this case, now this is based on my personal research, and this research was also confirmed by National Zakat Foundation's independent research. So I was actually doing this research on the American markets, and then I found they had done research on the UK markets similar, meaning that the average company in the United States, in the S&P 500, their current assets in their company ranges between 22.5 to 25% of the total market value of the share. Meaning that if a share of a company is $100, $25 of that is found in cash. The other $75 of value are in hard assets of the company. So what I advocate for is adding a little bit more, going up to about 30% as a safety net, right? Basically say if I take 30% of this share value, then I've definitely paid on the cash, the receivables, and the inventory. All right. So I'll take the value of that share. Let's say it's $120. 1/3 of that is what? Or 30% of that is what? 36. Okay. Or if it's $100 and I take 30%, let's say it's $30. Now I do 2.5% of 30. $7.50. Now I owe $7.50 on that share. Right? So this does two things. This acknowledges that I'm a long-term business owner of those shares, and number two, that I'm paying on the zakat liable liquid assets that are found in that company or basket of companies that are found in that fund. So why does this on the screen, why does it say market value times 0.085%? Because this is the same as saying market value times 30% times 2.5%. Are you a mathematician? I was going to say, yeah. Mathematician, accountant, CPA. Just mashallah, just blessed, mashallah. A pharmacist. Well, that still has a lot of calculations in it. I don't want a pharmacist who's bad at calculations. Okay, so what you're doing is you're paying on your current assets. Why? As we said, because if it were a building, you'd only pay on the rental income or the money that you're holding in your safe. Now, what do we do for tax incentivized or tax advantaged accounts where we don't have access to the money all at once? Number one, these are passive. They are not paid out yet. Most of the time, because they are penalized if you withdraw money, they're highly illiquid. They can't be sold, and they're highly dependent on the underlying assets. So, if you take an actual withdrawal, if you actually take out money called a distribution, those distributions can be qualified or unqualified. An unqualified distribution means I need $10,000. They're going to give you $10,000 minus taxes, minus penalties. A qualified distribution means that they're going to give you $10,000 minus taxes only without the penalties. And there are about 7 different things through the IRS that are particular to qualified distributions. What if I have an account where I have access to some of the money and not all of the money, like a Roth IRA? A Roth IRA, I contribute money every year. The yearly limit in 2024 is $7,000. And then my Roth, that money is invested and I make money on the investments. The gains I can't access until I retire, but the contributions I can access at any time. I treat those the same. I pay that 0.085% of the total market value. What if, however, it is a 401k or a 457 or a 403b where I cannot take money out because I will be penalized and I'll be breaking the investment contract? Remember when we talked about the example of a dry well? We said I own the land, I own the well, I own the gold. The gold fell down the bottom of the well. Do I pay zakat on that gold? Why not? But I own it. I can't get it out, guys, but I own it. We said all scholars agree that you don't pay zakat. What they differ on is that when you get it out, how you pay zakat. And those are three opinions. One opinion says you pay zakat for every year that passed. That's on one side. The other side says you hold it for a year, then pay after a year has passed after you got it. The middle ground says, well, seems extreme to pay zakat for every year because that might eat through the entire wealth, and the idea is to not, make a person lose everything. And also, we've had it all this time. Why wait another year? So what we're going to do is we're going to consider all of the time that it was inaccessible or illiquid to be one time period, like it was 1 year. And when we receive it, we pay once on the total amount that we have, and then we pay every year after that. Okay? So on the 401k, traditional IRA, 457, 403b, and the gains of your Roth IRA, you will not pay zakat on it. You will pay zakat on it in two situations. If you cash out completely or partially, or if you stay invested. If you cash out completely or partially, you pay on whatever you cashed out on, because now it's cash. If you keep it invested, then you go from not having access to having access. So therefore, you pay once when you get access to it, and then you pay every year according to our passive long-term investment calculation or formula, which would be the market value times 0.085%, which is the same as 30% of the market value times 2.5%. Is that clear for everyone?
That apply after retirement too?
Yes, it applies after retirement as well.
So basically, you have, let's say, 500 shares, for example.
Sure.
The market value would be, let's say, each share $200.
Sure.
So you take 30% of the 200.
Yes.
Okay, and you pay with the 30%.
Exactly. So
After retirement.
this is after retirement. Yes. Yeah. This is after retirement, or let's say before retirement, but you just have it in a brokerage account. You don't have it in a retirement account. So anything that's a long-term passive account, you treat it with this 30% rule. Anything that is a day trade, swing trade account, you treat it same as cash.
Sorry. When you take money from the retirement account,
Yes.
you have to pay taxes.
Yes.
You get off the tax as well.
Well, here's the thing. For the retirement account, or any of these accounts really, you only pay taxes on long-term passive investments when you cash out. So your zakat is probably not going to be at the same time as taxes. If it is, deduct the taxes. If not, then just pay on the value that's there. Yeah. Before we get into questions, I know that was very important to him because he actually came and asked me, he said, are we going to do this? I told him yes. So that's why I allowed that. But let's go through the rest of the slides, and then we'll have time at the end. Okay, real estate and rental income. If the property is your residence, it's the home that you live in, you do not pay zakat on the home that you live in. If you rent the property out, you pay on the rent only, not on the value of the property. If you are a property dealer, and you buy and sell homes and you have an inventory of your homes, that's your inventory. You pay on the inventory. When you pay zakat on inventory, do you use the retail price or the wholesale price? I used to say retail, but now I said I used to make a difference to say if you do retail, retail, if you do wholesale, wholesale, but now I go with the wholesale price because it's the fair market value for what you bought it for. If you own this property, now here's a big thing that comes up a lot with a lot of us. If you own the property, but you don't have plans for it, you say, you know what, I've got extra money, I'm going to buy this property. I don't even know how much it's going to be. It's going to be worth something in the future. I'm not going to do business with it. I'm not keeping it on the market, but I might sell it in the future when the price is right. In that case, simply pay 2.5% of the sales price without regard for any of the years that went forward. Don't deduct any expenses or anything like that. You're just going to pay 2.5% of the sales price. Okay, zakat on debt. If it's good debt, meaning you lend your brother $500 and he says, hey, I can give it to you, you can just keep it for now. You owe zakat on that. It means you can collect it, you have access to it, you add this to your assets. If you have bad debt means that you've loaned somebody $500 and they refuse to pay, or they can't pay, they don't have the money, or it's locked up in an account somewhere, so you can't collect, you don't have access to it, you don't include it. That's the general rule. Okay, if you do inventory work, you have a business where you sell inventory. So if you have that inventory for more than a year, and the inventory is not under contract, and the inventory is designated for sale, then you're going to calculate it same as its liquid price. Keep in mind, this doesn't include your business, doesn't include your place of business, doesn't include equipment or tools or similar. You do not include inventory that's under contract, meaning that you've pretty much already been sold. Why don't you include it? Because you already have cash coming in for it. You already have an accounts receivable or you've received cash. So you don't want to double count that. You want to be careful not to double dip. And then use the wholesale price as your basis. Okay. Lesson 6. Hold on. We've got 2 more to go, but we've also got a little bit of time before 4. So because this topic is fresh in your heads, we're going to set a timer. Okay? We're going to go over Q&A for 10-15 minutes, and then we're going to move to the next couple of slides. Inshallah, we'll be able to finish all of the slides as well as answer all of your questions. Does that sound good? Okay. Your question here, sir.
On that formula, the market value times 0.3, and that, say like $1 million, that would be 300,000.
Yes.
Times 2.5% is 75,000. Or 300 times 0.75. That doesn't work out the same as 0.085.
So that's a great point. 0.085, it actually should be 0.0833333 to infinity.
Isn't it 0.075?
0.075, I don't believe so.
Well, if you take 30% times 0.25.
30%.
30%
Okay.
times 2.5.
What do you say?
That's 0.075. Yes.
25 times 3
2.5% times 30%.
is 0.075. And 0.0085 is what?
Not the same as 0.075.
It's true. So here's the thing. Use 30% times market value times 2.5%.
Correct. That's 0.7.
So what you're pointing is that I've made a mistake in the slides. Yeah, that's fine. I make mistakes, alhamdulillah. So it should be 0.075 instead of 0.85 is what you're saying.
Well, it should be
0.075.
if you take 2.5% times 30%.
Yes. So 30% times 2.5%. Yes, it would be 0.0785. 0.075. You're correct. Yeah. So everyone makes, and I'm going to replace the slides on the link that you have, and you can download the slides with the correction. So that was, thank you sir for the correction. Was there something else?
No.
Jazakallah khair. No, that's huge. That's important. Thank you very much.
I just want to make sure I understand correctly.
Please.
If I have access to all my retirement funds,
Mm-hmm.
I can take them out tonight or
Yes.
take them long.
Sure.
So I pay taxes only on the amount I take out. Am I right?
Taxes?
Yes.
Federal taxes?
Talk about zakat.
Zakat.
So I pay zakat on only the amount I take out minus the taxes.
If you take a cash withdrawal, yes.
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 So
Or if the company is holding cash and receivables inventory, you're an owner of that company in part because you own shares. Yes, you own shares.
I work for that company.
I understand. You don't work for the company, but you own shares.
Yes.
A share is a representation of your ownership in the company.
What actually the retirement fund that I have, it does not have anything to the company. It just market.
Okay, so that's a different situation than you're asking for. You're asking about something that's very specific to you. There are certain retirement accounts that their returns are pegged to market, but the holdings are different. But what I'm saying is that if you own the share, let's say for example, I own 100, you mentioned 1,000 shares of Apple, for example, or 100 shares of Home Depot or whatever. So I own the share. I now am a part owner of that company, which means that for every share, there's a certain amount of value in that share that is representative of the current assets, the cash, the receivables, the inventory. And therefore, I still owe zakat because if I owned the company directly, let's say, for example, I owned, corner store, right? And I had all of these hard assets, but I still had cash in the cash register, I would still include that cash when I calculate the zakat of the business. Similarly, I'd still include the cash of a joint shareholder company because I'm part owner of that business. But it would be proportionate to the number of shares that I own.
You don't be paying on inventory if you own the business.
Sorry?
You don't be paying on the inventory if you own the business.
No, I'd be paying on the inventory and the cash and the receivables.
Correct.
Yes.
Same with livestock if you own the farm.
Yes. Yes. Angel.
So I know that if you have a house for rent, you pay on the rental income.
Yes.
If you're living in a duplex type situation where the other side of the house is being rented out, and that rent payment's going towards the mortgage and stuff, would you count that as income or?
Well, it'll be a wash.
Okay.
So you wouldn't have much then. You would pay only on the cash that remains after paying those bills. Yeah. Sister?
What if you have a business and you give it to your children?
What if you have a business and you give it to your children? To explain more?
There's no money in it, like you technically give it to them.
I don't understand. You have to tell me more details.
We're talking about the percentage. So do you have to pay anything on that?
I don't understand. You have to give more details.
Let me word it.
Yes, please.
Let me after the Q&A, let me think about how.
Okay. Yeah. I'm sure. I know that you have a serious question in your mind, but you're thinking about how to say it as succinctly as possible. So reword it, and then we'll revisit that, inshallah. Yes.
For instance, you leave a job and you have 401k or any type of retirement, or you can inherit 401k or retirement account into your home. At what point are you liable to present that something that you're building it, or when you actually receive it?
You are responsible for zakah when it is fully within your control without penalty. Yeah. So, for example, if you had an inherited IRA, okay, and they said to you that you can't access it or let's say even more than not maybe an IRA is a better example is, let's say, for example, a 401k or a pension plan through a company, and they said it's your relatives, it's going to you, but you can't get it. Not until they would have been this age. Then when you receive it from them, that's when it becomes your responsibility. Okay, I'm giving you an example. I'm saying if that's the case, then it's always an if-then statement. If that applies, whenever you have access without penalty, then you pay on it. If you don't have a penalty, then you pay on it. Yeah. Okay, the brother here.
If you're the beneficiary of a waqf ahli, would you pay zakat on whatever money you would receive? Let's say the waqf ahli gives you money once a year or biannually or something like that.
Great question. So if you have a waqf ahli or a family endowment and you are a beneficiary and receive money, that money is like income. So you simply add that to your total assets and you wait for a year to pass on your total assets.
So if your total assets, and if you have surplus income in those total assets with it, then you would pay zakat.
Yes, exactly. So a very important point. Anytime you make money throughout the year, you simply add it to your total assets. Doesn't matter how you made it. Maybe you got a tax refund. Maybe you got money from trading stock. Maybe somebody gave you a gift. You simply add that to your total assets, and then you pay on the total assets when your zakat date comes around. Yes?
What about inheritance or providing on a trust, say, both a combination of assets and land? Because ultimately that property is held by the trust, not necessarily by the trustee.
True.
How is that handled?
So any money that reaches you through the trust, it would be the same situation that he's asking about. So once you receive a distribution from the trust, it becomes yours, and then you pay on it. Otherwise, it's not in your personal ownership, and therefore you won't pay on it. For the land, then you would essentially the trust is probably going to do one of two things. It's either going to rent that land out and pay rental payments to the beneficiaries, or it's going to liquidate at a later time and then distribute that to the beneficiaries. Either way, you would only pay after you receive, and it's become part of your total assets for a year. Yeah. The sister there in the back.
So I heard you mention earlier HSA. Like if a company allocates to their staff, let's say a certain amount of money just for health
Yes.
to pay for things like that, that still falls under zakatable. It can be, you have to pay zakat on that.
Yes, so if it's in an HSA, a health savings account, your health savings account is accessible to you without penalty throughout the year. The only caveat is that you have to spend it on health-related expenses or in pharmacies, right? So essentially, you can really use your HSA for almost anything that you buy at like a CVS or a Walgreens. And because that is liquid cash that's accessible to you, you pay on that.
We didn't really technically have a Q&A over who was eligible for zakat.
Uh-huh.
So one of the categories.
I mean, that's what we're doing now, though, but go ahead.
One of the categories was for softening of the heart.
Yes.
Is that category irrespective of the person is rich or not?
Yes. Yes. Because the idea is to soften the heart. It's not respective to their social or wealth status, but of kind of pulling at the heartstrings to soften them up to Islam. Yes. I think there was a sister. Yes. So, Muna.
So if you have a retirement account but it's in a Roth, then is that considered accessible or is it because it's a retirement account?
So great question. So a Roth IRA is two parts. Contributions, those are accessible. Those are accessible without penalty. And then gains on those contributions, those are inaccessible until you retire. So you would not pay on the gains. You would only pay on the contributions.
So if it's a Roth outside versus inside a retirement, it's the same thing.
Well, Roth is only on retirement accounts, but it's generally a post-tax contribution. So if it's a Roth portion of a 401k, and you have access to it, you add that to your assets. Otherwise, you don't. Or if it's a Roth portion of an IRA, the contributions, you add the contributions, you don't add the gains. Let me give you an example. Let's say I've been contributing, the $7,000 for the last couple of years, and now I have, let's just say, $28,000 that's in the account. Those are my contributions. But because I was invested in NVIDIA, it went up to, let's just say it almost doubled or tripled. So now instead of, $28,000, I have almost $100,000. Now I'm going to pay on $28,000, not on the remaining 70 some thousand dollars, because those are gains that are inaccessible to me until I retire.
If you don't have a very accurate accounting of what was invested and was working because it was years ago, you guys only, or
Oh, no, you just go into your account, you look up total contributions, and then you subtract that from the account total, and that'll tell you your gains versus your contributions. Yeah, it'll be actually very, very, very easy to find on your balance statement. Yes. Yes, please, one more time.
you mentioned that the Zakat goes to, and you gave an example of the wife gives the husband money because she's not obligated in as Zakat. Does that also apply to other members of the family because she's not obligated?
Yes.
So whether it's vertical or horizontal,
Well, except for parents and children. Because your parents and your children, even if you're a female, you are still responsible for caring for them if you have the ability to. So if you have the wealth, then you still have to care for them. Your children, obviously, you have to care for them if their father's not caring for them, or if it's a joint responsibility.
How do you define children?
Children that are minors and unable to earn on their own.
Let's say, for example, somebody 25 years old, maybe 30, one of your kids, and they are in debt.
If they are in debt, then you can help them out of the debt, but that doesn't count towards zakat.
It's not.
No. But you're certainly rewarded for doing so. They're in the back with her son.
You mentioned that if you do passive investment in public stock, what about private stock where it's illiquid?
Oh, that's an excellent question. So if you're invested in private stock that is illiquid, or let's say, for example, you're an angel investor in a startup, or you have venture capital, or, for example, you work at a startup and you were granted shares, or you use like what do they call those, master planning agreements or whatever they're called. I forgot what the master something agreements. Essentially, where you don't know the value of the company until the company does one of two things: goes public or sells. Right? In that case, you don't pay until you have quantifiable data. So at the sale, pay 2.5%. At the liquidation or the conversion event, pay 2.5%. Yeah. Yes.
In the list of
And then you.
Zakat purposes, I didn't notice masjid or learning centers.
That's correct. Yes. So, mosques and learning centers, some scholars included them under the idea of fi sabilillah, of in God's path, meaning that jihad was legislated for the ascendancy of God's word, and therefore that's done in one of two ways. That can be done by protection and force, or it can be done by dawah and calling people. So they consider centers that call people to Islam to be eligible, and those that are just there, say neighborhood masjids, those should be cared for by the general donations of the people.
So when they are not recipients of Zakat.
Primarily, no, unless they fulfill a very specific function.
So only the Dawah program would be eligible to receive that.
I'm going to say right now, it's a case-by-case basis, because this is one of the areas where there's a lot of abuse in the United States, where lots of organizations will claim to be doing certain work, and they'll claim to be fulfilling a certain function, and they don't. And so I always say that generally look for organizations that are working primarily with zakat recipients. Then, if you're going to give to an organization, then you should ask them under which basis, how are they receiving zakat funds, and allow them to explain. It's their responsibility, if they want to receive, to explain to you why. Okay.
But Islamic relief would be acceptable.
Islamic relief in general would be acceptable if the programs that they're using it on are for zakat eligible people. Most of the time they are. Yeah. Okay.